Hey guys, welcome back. Um, this is the weekly Friday open studio design session, build session, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it design session because we're creating something new. Um, so last time we left off with this prototype where we basically finished off the fuselage, connected the wings, connected a handle on the underside, and then we also built the twin boom with the A tail. So this is from previous streams. It took a while to get to this point, mostly because I didn't actually design it ahead of time and have the parts designed and ready. So we kind of did things as we went. That's why this prototype took longer than usual. But if you have a design that you kind of put into a PDF form, you can actually print out templates real quick and make these prototypes and planes really, really fast. Because it's just a matter of printing it out rather than hand drawing every single part. That's kind of what led to this prototype being such a involved project. Even though it's supposed to be rapid, it just took a long time to get to this point because we started from literally nothing, a blank sheet of paper, and we came up with a sketch. We started building the parts, making the parts, assembling the parts. So, anyways, that was a tangent. But today we just want to kind of finish off this design. That's kind of the goal. It kind of looks like there's not that much to do, but depending on how nice we want the end product to be, we might have to spend a little bit more time to get things right. So there's a couple things that I need to do for this prototype. I need to finish off the tail end of this aircraft. As you can see, we finished off the nose and the fuselage last time. I'm not sure if I want to cover this, but that's a neat little interesting detail is the orange side is down. This is, if you go back to last week's stream, on Thursday, it was interesting because this was a new method that I used to really create this thing. Kind of lofted a straw in the middle and then cut out a panel that was actually just the base cross section and kind of just laid it out like this, to get a kind of 3D shape. This nose looked a lot better last week. It still looks okay, but it's a little weird. But it's a rapid prototype, and so we'll keep on thinking about it and think of ways to improve it in the future. But anyways, yeah, today we want to finish off the tail end here, install some wing guards here, to soften the transition between the fuselage and the main wing to create a connection there. Yeah, and then the wing guards will help transition back to the tail here, and then we just want to integrate the A tail and perhaps build a fairing around the where it attaches, and so that's going to be an interesting thing. But yeah, after that, I think it should pretty much be all set to go. So yeah, let's get started. So first things first, got to finish off the back end of this prototype. And I'm going to lower the camera a little bit so we're a little closer so I can actually sit down and work on it rather than stand. All right, so here it is. Let me just grab my tape real quick. I'm running a little bit low on tape, but should be enough for this build. Do need to get more soon. So right now we're just looking at the tail end here. Remember we cut out a rectangular sheet cardstock and kind of just formed it around the fuselage. And that's how you get this nice kind of curved shape. It's not perfect, right? You are approximating by cutting it in several places and then connecting it together. So it's not perfect, but it's a start. I think if the straw inside were a little bit more tapered, this would look a lot better, right? So if this was flatter down, that would probably make it look a little better. Because right now it looks kind of weird, but maybe it adds to the personality of the design, I guess. But yeah, let's finish off the back end here. So I think we want to just, so yeah, we cut out a rectangular sheet, we wrap the front. Now we just have to wrap the back part, kind of just like fold it like this, and secure these tabs first probably, and then form this around and secure that, and then cut or do something with it. So I'm gonna secure these tabs down first. Let's see, how do we do that? It's not exactly perfect. So let's see, just grab a piece of tape and see where things go. This should be interesting. Alright, yeah, so that's not really the best way to do this. I'm kind of just going in, guns blazing, and just taping away. I also apologize in advance if my phone overheats and the stream is paused or disconnected. It is kind of a warm day today, so yeah, this is an interesting thing. I don't know how to approach this. Well, let's see actually. So what if we just forgot all about that and went over all of this, right? Just don't even secure that. I feel like we need some sort of attachment. See, the thing is, if I tape one side, then the other will kind of just, it won't have like the same type of attachment, right? Because if I tape underneath here, tape this portion down, right, then you won't be able to do the same thing with this side because this side is already taped down. So this isn't a precise thing at all, right? This is not a precise build technique, but it does get reasonably good results. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I think I might just try securing this directly without attaching the middle tabs here, because I originally thought that was going to be an issue, but actually now that I think about it, what if because we always look at it like this has to be on the outside, but what if these tabs were on the inside? Oh yeah, that's interesting. That's almost impossible to like really tape down though, because you gotta like pull this up without creasing it too much. Secure this first. I think this comes up with this is a better integrated solution, because if you do this on the outside, it's just gonna add like a panel line here, right, on the outside. Which I suppose isn't bad, it's just not great. So if we actually fold this up and put the bit here in, that should be nice. All right, so I am going to do that then. I'm going to tape this. Just gonna trim this side off because we don't need that. It's just gonna be excess material. Yeah, so you want to be careful with this because you also want the other side to, oh my god, I accidentally taped a little bit. Never mind. There we go. We are all set. There we go. So it's not gonna match this curve exactly, it looks like, unless we want to make a cut, but I don't want to complicate things like that. So I'm just going to, yeah, I gotta lift this up. And so this piece is taped. Now we're just folding it down. Looks like it does need a cut down the middle at this point, just to help it sit in place. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. All right, and so with that, we're now going to tape the other side. I just want to finish that tail section off, right? Again, this is not a precise or an exact science. Just kind of have to form it according to feel and intuition. Right, kind of like that. Right, so it's taped. And then you just kind of, I'm gonna mark where it starts in the middle here and go to the tail end. Just kind of trim that off. Not kinda, do trim that off. And that gives us a symmetric looking tail section, which we can then tape. Alright, so center that a little better. There we go. Wow, that is a nice tail section. I don't think I've ever built a tail section that nice, to be honest. That is actually the nicest tail I have ever built. Wow. So now we just kind of want to finish these tabs by securing it on. Actually, I'm thinking now that we can probably trim this down. We don't need it to go all the way, right? Because if we let it go all the way, then it kind of looks rough around the edges. But if we preemptively end it, like around here, where that piece meets, right? We do that and connect it to like to the edge, and we make it obvious that it's intentional, then it looks not as bad. So we're gonna make this parallel to the trailing edge here. That just, this is completely eyeballed, like some person keeps on saying, and that's true, I do eyeball these things a lot. Alright, so there we go. We have now marked it, and we can cut it. Cut these tail sections down. Right. First of all, it reduces weight a little bit, which is negligible on the scale of this thing. But most importantly, it just makes it look more like a finished product. Right, just take that on and then wrap this around really tightly against the contour. I'm gonna do the same thing for this side. Right, just take that and wrap the tape around really nicely. Sorry, this camera is really close. Let me just move that up a little bit. Yeah, the wingspan of this thing it's massive. It's a very high aspect ratio. I don't think I've ever built something with such a high aspect ratio. Wings are slender and long in this prototype. Alright, that looks not too bad. Right, side profile looks okay. It actually looks pretty complete, to be honest. May want to flatten this out, not sure, but it's definitely okay. Right, has a nice contour shape to the body. All right, so that's that. So now let's take a look here. If we add this, right, A-tail goes here, and all right, let's move this up. A-tail goes here, and we should pretty much be all set. But before we do that, to make our lives a little easier, we want to design and install the wing guards here, just to make the fuselage a little bit bigger. So it transitions well into the wings. Yeah, and then just fixing some tape issues here and there. And also before we do that, or I guess it doesn't really matter too much, but we do want to do the wingtip fold, because that is a pretty big feature, is the curved winglets. Not sure which one I want to do first, actually, so I don't know. I have no idea. I think can probably design the guard first, and then make the parts for that. Honestly, it doesn't matter at this point which one to do first. I feel like the winglets are simpler to do. So, the thing about the winglets is that, you know, you want a shape, right? Let's get a 2D shape first. How do we want to do this? Make it parallel to this edge, right? That would look nice. Alright, so I'm gonna just draw out a rough 2D shape to put over. Right, so that would be something like this. And then whatever the chord is at this location, this is about 5. It's like a little under 5, so actually let's just make it 5, yeah. 5, and then a steep taper here. Right, we could do that, and just do something like that. Actually, let's just include some more material for now. And then you could go in a little bit. Right, and trim out that rough shape. It doesn't matter too much, because we're just trying to get an idea. Right. Alright, so clearly the 5 centimeters was a little too much. And also we added a little too much extra material, I feel like. So we're gonna have to adjust that. Right, so if things were like this, then we would have to adjust the geometry to be here to here, and then to here. So something like that. And then this goes all the way up here. Right, so something like that. Alright, so we're gonna have to clean up the lines, obviously. Right. This is gonna be interesting. And then here to here. And here to here. So if we actually just trim this out, we started with a huge template because we didn't really know what was going to be needed, but that can be adjusted so that now you can really hone in the geometry that you want. And this is really to create a 2D template, right? The whole reason for these 2D templates rather than a complete part is that you're saving time, right? You're able to rapidly change geometry and make adjustments as needed. So that's really nice, actually. So yeah, one of the things that you want to think about is, how do I want certain things to be, right? And I know that's like a pretty vague thing, right? But you really want to think about things like that as like all of design, really. It's just, how do I want this thing to be? For example, right now I'm thinking about this front edge here, how backwards it should be tapered. Right. I feel like it's fine as it is. I just don't know if there's a better solution out there. You could just call it like line up here, right? And then truncate that little triangular area a bit. Yeah, so that's a very slender piece, right? Oh yeah, I think that looks a lot better. It's not as bulky, it's more streamlined. You can actually make this rounded too, if we really wanted to get fancy, right? That's kind of like the body shaping and molding process. But really, to simplify the build, I feel like I will use a straight edge there. It just defines it a little better, I feel like. I'm not sure. Maybe we need a compound bit here. Nah, that's too complicated. Just thinking about it. Just trying different shapes right now. So this is originally what it was intended to be like. Right. Like down here, yeah. There we go. So that looks nice, but I should trim this piece a little bit more. Let's try and get the piece to be as tight as possible. Actually, maybe we don't want to do that because it is 3D and it might eat up some of the material when you fold it. So yeah, let's use this. This is the shape we want then. Alright, so now we want to make a part that has this line as kind of a shared edge, right? So if we just trace it Sorry about that. I just can't really see. Just move this up a little bit. Yeah, so if you just trace it on paper, right, you create a template. Yeah, pretty much. Do that, make sure the lines are there. And then you flip this piece over and align this edge, right? Because you want it to be a folded piece. All right, there's our template. Just takes a little bit of time, right? Define a 2D shape that you want, and then just try and figure a way to make it a nice part, right? So like add the symmetry, for example. There we go. I feel like trimming this little tab off because it's very easy to, and it's available. All right, there we go. Then kind of want to, this is a sharp cut actually, so I might use an X-Acto knife. X-Acto knives are really nice. It makes things a lot easier. Your cuts become a lot more precise, but also you kind of damage the mat underneath. But it is a cutting mat. It is meant for that purpose, but I want to try and minimize as much use as possible, right? So the straight edges, they're easy to cut, so right, because these are sharp, so, and they're in the middle of the paper. That's why I am choosing to use my X-Acto knife instead. Here we go. That was quick. Now, all right, so we have a template on printer paper, but we really want it to be a structural piece, so we need it to be in cardstock. And then basically what we can do is kind of fold this in half first, gently, right? And then, I don't know, maybe put a straw in between to really give it some shape. But the idea is to wrap it around this wing, right? That's why it's called a wing guard. It's a nice sheet of material that really provides a nice transition here. So it looks like we'll have enough material in the back. So we might want to modify the template a little bit. Right, parallel from there to the end, edge like that, right? So let's make that modification and then make the actual parts in cardstock, of course. So yeah, there we go. We have the piece there. Just gonna eyeball this. Such a short distance. Shouldn't matter too much if it's a little off. So that is an optimized wing guard template. So now we just need the leftover bits of cardstock from last week. I'll just grab that real quick. I will be right back. So this is all we have. Just check real quick. There we go. All right, looks like we don't have enough material here for a full piece, right? Yeah, it's not gonna fit inside any of these. Maybe this one, no, not really. So these are probably gonna be used for smaller pieces, right? So this piece right here looks like prime material for the underside, kind of a, actually maybe not even for that, but want to build a fairing for the wing attachment. But anyways, we'll keep these handy for later. Looks like we're gonna need a fresh sheet of cardstock. So right now this prototype has only taken one sheet of cardstock so far. This is the second sheet that I am starting to use, and I'm sure you could be more efficient with your materials. But this is how far I've gotten so far. So we trace down the shapes first. Okay, so you use that edge, right? Try to close in on that edge, but it's not quite enough. So let's just start tracing the shape down. In the comments, what's up, bro? Well, I'm doing well. It's a Friday. Just trying to finish the rapid prototype today. I'm building a wing guard right now. It's a piece that connects the fuselage to the wing. Just blends it aerodynamically and improves the structural properties of the wing. And it looks a little nicer with this piece. I'm just drawing the template down onto a cardstock sheet. And let's see. Well, probably fit it in here. It's a little troublesome, so yeah, I might just want to do this instead. I just want to figure out a way to efficiently use material. Right, so this piece, right, if you do it like this, you'll save some material, but I'm worried that I might have to cut a little more. Right, because you want to fit it nicely, but this is not perfect, unfortunately, so it doesn't fit really nice together. in a really tight formation. What I might have to end up doing is just kind of put it on an edge somewhere close by. It's not ideal. Well, we do have the twin boom, right? We want to attach it to the wings here, and then it's in the works. Trying to build a fairing here for this attachment point to make it look a little more finished, and rather than, you know, kind of just slapped together. So I do want to do that, and it looks like this section right here with this corner, that's actually probably perfect for that fairing piece. So I'm actually going to do it symmetrically this time. So I'm going to draw the shape out here on this side to make efficient use of the material, right? And what this does is it creates kind of the outline for the fairing. I feel like it's going to use a part of this, you know, kind of geometry. So yeah, it's just trying to be smart about these things ahead of time. Right now we're just using 0.5 millimeter lead in a Graph Gear 500 mechanical pencil, which is really nice because it has this thin needle point, which makes it really easy to trace shapes, right? Because paper, you know, printer paper is really thin, so you gotta be delicate with this thing, but you also want to be able to kind of precisely trace out a shape, right? So if you apply too much pressure onto the edge, it deforms the paper. So it's a trade-off, right? You don't want to make templates straight out of cardstock, because that's a more expensive material. It's about $4 for 50 sheets. And printer paper is super cheap, right? $8 gives you like 500 sheets. So it's about being economical with your design choices, right? Templates, they're fine. You can use paper, right? You can make a more permanent template if you wanted to, but I am not really about that, because this is probably going to be a one-off, to be honest. I don't make electronic plans for these, unfortunately. I feel like, you know, I definitely could. I have the tools, right? You can just go into PowerPoint, take a picture of your drawing, and then, you know, create like lines and make an outline, export it as a PDF. But that seems to be a little much for a rapid prototype. This is already the 5th stream, right? And each stream is about 2 hours. And we've gotten to this point, and it's almost done, but really it's supposed to be a rapid prototype, so I'm a little bit apologizing for the fact that it's taking so long. But, you know, good things, they do take a little bit more time to make, right? And that's why nice things are expensive, because manufacturing is more time consuming, right? It's more resource consuming. So actually, you know what? I am going to, instead of cutting with my scissors, I'm going to use my X-Acto knife today to speed things up a little bit, especially because this part right here has some very sharp geometry, and that's kind of hard to cut, right? Like, so in this corner, if I use my scissors and cut here, how am I gonna like continue cutting on this edge, right? I have to start again from this edge, but then how do you start from that edge if you're in the middle of the paper, right? So it's just easier to use an X-Acto knife to straight up cut the component. So yeah, that little triangle there, that could be cut with scissors really easily. Do you want to be precise, right? Like X-Acto knives, they're nice. Right? It's very clear what's happening, but also you want to be precise, because like right now I'm worried that the shadow from the ruler is interfering with my ability to judge like where it is. And also you need a cutting mat to use an X-Acto knife. And I don't really want to damage it too much, right? But it is a cutting mat, so it's meant to be used. I do like to use things, not just have them look pristine all the time. So trying to grab this corner right here is kind of hard to see because it's HB lead on gray cardstock material. So it's gonna close in on this edge right here. Just kind of trim that. So I don't want to make a particularly deep cut because that'll damage the mat, I'm afraid. I'm still new to like cutting mats in general. I don't know the brand of this one, but it's a generic cutting mat, 24 by 36. It's nice for, I use it as a desk mat, so I usually, when I work from home, my keyboard is here, so if I cut it up too much, it's gonna be rough and uncomfortable to use when I actually work. So yeah, so you got to think about that. So let's see, right here, that's about the tip of that edge, right? I want to make a solid cut. You also don't want to like cut in too deep into the mat so that it's not able to heal itself. That would suck. All right, should be okay. And then now, those two can be done with scissors. So we're gonna cut this inner edge, and notice we're cutting from the tip out, not the other way around, because it's really hard to tell when the line ends when your ruler is up against it like that. Right? I mean, like, I guess you could tell, but it's just better practice to do it this way. As you can see, I did cut a little extra here. So this is getting into build techniques and just a little nitpicky, but good quality stuff, good craftsmanship comes from these little tiny considerations in every step along the way. So I was able to do it really precisely that time, so that's nice. When you do make the cut, from my experience, I feel like it's best to like cut at a relatively shallow angle. Like, you don't want the blade to be like going into the paper at 90 degrees, right? So if I take a little scrap piece right here, you don't want it to cut the paper like this. You want it to really cut the paper like this, right? So you don't want to like go like that. You want to kind of let it slide through, right? So low angle, and you want to try and push the blade against the edge of the ruler, but not slice into the ruler. If you're using a plastic ruler, it is very possible, it is very likely that you can actually dig into the ruler and start cutting off the plastic on the ruler. And you don't want to do that. So you either get a metal ruler, which helps negate that problem because metal is pretty slippery on metal, or you just gotta be more careful when you cut. So this is the last edge here. If I use scissors, it would be hard to get it to this point, right, without really creasing the paper and damaging it. Yeah, there we go. And then low angle, align with the straight edge, and then cut like that. So yeah, when you're holding the ruler down, you also want to apply pressure so that you make sure it doesn't slip. So that's another big problem that I encounter sometimes, is that your blade or your ruler slips, and then that causes your blade to slip, which is not good for the piece that you're trying to make. X-Acto knives, they also yield a slightly cleaner cut. I feel like it's just because it's a single blade that's very sharp, and it's just a very nice straight cut. Scissors, you know, there's some variability in that, right? You can wobble a little bit, and then your tool path is a little off. But sorry, this part shouldn't be taking this long to make. I'm just explaining a lot of the thought process that goes on behind the scenes. Sorry if this is boring. The idea behind these streams, again, to reiterate, is to have them on in the background while you work on your own projects, because watching me do this is probably extremely boring. But if you're working on your own projects, you know, you can tune in to something, have something going on in the background that's not too distracting. I hope I'm not too distracting. Also, it's just nice to have a studio atmosphere where everybody's creating something, right? At least I find it inspiring. So we've cut that. So I mentioned sharper cuts with or cleaner cuts with the X-Acto knife. That's turning out to be not true in this case, because I didn't slice it clean enough. I was afraid of like pushing too much and really damaging the healing mat, like the cutting mat underneath. That's why I didn't make a clean cut, but it's actually resulting in a poorer piece here. So for the next part, I will probably cut a little harder just to get a clean result. And cutting mats, they're not too expensive, I guess. They're about $20, so it's a tool you can use for many cuts. So there you go. That's one piece. All right, for the next piece, I'm going to cut a little bit harder than I did for the last one. I'm just trying to find a good angle right now. Don't want too much material getting in the way. I'll just precisely find that vertex. All right, low angle. Apply a little more pressure this time. All right, let's see how good that cut was. Okay, so I completely cut it through that time. Let's see how damaged the mat is. Wow, you don't really see any marks at all. Okay, so noted, I can cut a little harder. Just go at a shallow angle, because that really helps. So I am going to cut from this edge. It's generally better to cut from in to out in these parts, but since I can actually see where this particular edge ends, I can afford to cut in. Right, don't want to cut too much still, because we might want to use this area for the fairing later. Kind of what is it called? The pylon, right? Pylon fairing. Alright, so again, we didn't design this part in the beginning, right? We kind of just went with what we have and then based our design off of that. So in that sense, it's kind of custom tailored to whatever design we have at the moment, which is why this isn't like a, you know, something that you can mass produce. So it's kind of determined at the moment. It's kind of like a surfboard or something. You know, people work on surfboards in their garage on the West Coast. And no two are alike, right? Because it's always done by hand. So really, to standardize everything, you would have to digitalize all the parts. So I'm just going to my ruler shifted a little bit there, but such a small amount. So you really want to make sure the bottom of your ruler is stationary. They do have rulers out there that have like a grippy underside. I personally don't like those because I find it hard to use. Like, I like applying the pressure to keep it in place, and then when you don't have pressure, it's relatively smooth and you can move it around your workpiece like that. I feel like this is mostly done, right? So now you could take it off, and once you can hold it in your hands, then it's easier to use scissors to quickly trim these short edges. Right, so that's that, and pretty much all set with the wing guards. So now comes the exciting bit where we get to install the wing guards. So I think I want to have the pencil marked side on the inside, just for a little cleaner result. Right, so what you can do is just align this in place, right? And then fold this wing guard over. Right, that serves to connect the fuselage here with the forward swept wings in this case. Right, it just provides a nice transition. In terms of aerodynamics, it does provide like a vortex. It generates a vortex. So, but we don't really know that for sure because we don't test these things in wind tunnels. Maybe when I get like a proper house and start some garage projects, first thing I'll build is a visualization wind tunnel. So this looks decent. Just dry fitting it on right now. Alright, looks pretty nice. So I am going to apply tape now. So you apply it right here. Right. So the piece of tape bridges the two pieces that you want to connect, right? The guard and the wing itself. And then I feel like I should secure the bottom side first. I just want to align it to the top edge. It's not gonna match up perfectly, like in terms of plan form, but we can at least match the trailing edge here so that it's a nice build, I guess. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, just apply a piece of tape right about here. Right, halfway, bridging the two. Then, using that X-Acto knife right here, you can now trim off the precise cut here to clean off the tape edge. It's gonna be kind of hard, but you gotta be precise here. There we go. And when like tape gets caught on your scissors or whatnot. Alright, so that's most of it. You can now apply a piece of tape down here. And I'm not sure if I'll run out of tape. If I do, then I'll have to halt this build in subsequent videos until I get more material to work with. But this should be okay. Alright, so we just use the corner there right at the vertex and then fold this flat, applied it nicely. And then, you know, there's a little tab here that we can just trim off. Right. So that's the top side done. I can go on the bottom. There's also the inside of the bottom. Right? So that's a decent amount of tape there. It's not perfect, we missed the tail end here. Let's trim off that little tab. Yeah, these little pieces get really annoying. They get caught really easily on everything. Not fun. Sorry about that. Just reading the comments a little bit. Building a plane is always the most exciting part for me. Well, also the success of the flight. Yeah, I can relate to that. That's why I do what I do. Video is very good learning. It's also like ASMR. Thanks. I guess I have a nice voice. Not to pat myself on the back or anything, but alright, so that's a nice connection there. For the back part, I'm not sure how I want to assemble it, because it is two pieces like that. So I do need to like kind of tape over that bit right there. You tape over this and this, so like one or two pieces going horizontally might do the trick, but also it's at an angle, so maybe smaller pieces will be better. This is about the width of a piece of tape, so I could just do a little bit here and then apply a little bit here, so don't go overkill with the tape. I am running low on tape too, so I am forced to become more efficient with whatever I have. I'm just trying to erase a mark here. Don't know how it got there, but anyway. Alright, so this is done for the most part. Let's just apply that little bit. Little square piece of tape, 1 inch by 1 inch probably would be my rough estimate of the size here. You just apply it on one side, fold it flat, and then over onto the bottom side, so that it just seals the two surfaces. Oh, sorry, that wasn't on camera. Anyway. Right. So that's I don't know, it's focusing at all. There we go. See, that's a nice connection. It's very smooth. So we do need to finish this little bit right there. Alright, so I have the proper length, but we only need like half of that. So I'm just gonna trim this. Right. And apply that as a connecting piece here to really smooth it out. Yeah, that's not a bad build. Can also use this extra bit to tape this down. Make sure it's a smooth aerodynamic surface. So yeah, that's a very nice kind of shape right there. We only got one side done, but we have the other side right here. It's been about 67 minutes, about 2 hours. We'll have the wings assembled, or tail assembled, and the pylons attached, and fairing installed. Just dry fitting this piece right now. So as you can see, it's the exact same template, but it is fitting slightly different, right? The trailing edge here is a little, so the cord here is a little shorter than the other side by this amount. Right? It's a tiny, tiny gap, but so it's not a very precise thing. I'm trying to get better at it, but yeah, I'm just trying to really get this correct. All right. So there's a dilemma here. If we want it to look symmetric, then it's gonna leave this little sliver of material here. That's from the fuselage panel. So to not have that, if we try to get rid of that sliver, it may not match perfectly. Let me just see if I'm doing this right. So it looks like this might be a little offset. There we go. I guess we'll just have the tail a little asymmetric then. this edge. At some point, we have to commit. So, make a decision. This is my decision. Do it like that. The guards were made fine as they are, but I think the fuselage is somehow asymmetric. Damn, that sucks. Oh well. Better luck next time, anyway. Have to trim this. I don't mean the tape, I mean like the cardstock itself. Damn, that's tough. Yeah, we might have to modify the shape. Yeah, the tail is crooked. Huh. That's very interesting. Well, hopefully it's not too noticeable. Yeah, that's really bothering me. Wow. Yeah, don't know how I'm gonna solve this problem. So I'll have to slice a little bit off this edge. Try and get it to match. It's not gonna be perfect, but damn, we were so close. All right, well. Bottom side now. Keeps getting real low. Just don't know if I have enough to complete this. That wasn't ideal. I'm gonna try again. Kind of folding the wings a little bit, sharpening the leading edge. All right, so it doesn't look bad from afar. It's just when you get close up, it looks pretty off. Right. That's unfortunate. Anyway, as long as it flies nice, I feel like for the most part I'll be happy with the design. So right now, we tape the bottom, the top. Now we just gotta tape the inboard for the bottom and top. We can call it a day for the wing guards. Alright, so now tape the bottom. This is the last major piece of tape for the guards. You just make sure the corner is there, and then just really just secure that down. There's a tiny gap there. Damn. Alright, well, it's tolerance issues, I guess. Anyway, let's fix the aft portion here. Got a piece like that, cut it in half. Right. Secure that trailing edge there. And the bottom loose edge here. Trim off this edge. Alright. Just scrap somewhere. It's hard to deal with these scraps sometimes. It's very clingy. Alright. So, not smooth bit right there, just cut that off. This is the last one right here. Just need a little square piece of tape, 1 inch by 1 inch. Sorry, you can't really see that. But this is, we're just finishing this trailing edge here. So you want to fold it tight. Wrap it around really tightly. And you have a very sharp edge right there. So we finished the wing guards. Now it looks a little nicer, right? Not a sharp transition between the fuselage and the wings. Unfortunately, in the process, I found out that the tail is not symmetric. It might look symmetric from afar, but if you look closely, it is not symmetric. The panels aren't matching up. But from afar, it looks okay. It looks okay. Again, this is a forward swept wing, so this is forward, not this side. Just so we're clear. So the next major task for this prototype is to attach the twin boom. So let me just zoom out a little bit, raise the camera higher. There we go. Right. So yeah, we want to attach the boom to the plane. I feel like before we do that, we might want to curve the winglets, or should we just go ahead with this? I'm not sure. I feel like it would be harder to curve the winglets after they're installed. Alright, yeah, it's not. Yeah, so let's curve the winglets first. That should be a pretty quick thing to do. Just trim off this little This little tab of tape right there. You see that? Oh, that's annoying. There we go. Much better. And also on this side. Surprised that is symmetric. Right, you see that little piece of tape there? Gonna slice that off. Anyway, that's that. All right, so we need something to curve the winglets because it wants to be, we designed it to be a continuous curve in the original sketch, right? So if you look at this, the winglets are curved. We want it to be continuous. I forgot where the sketch is, but anyway, I think we're gonna do that by taking one of my ink bottles here and then just kind of molding it around. This is ink for fountain pens, because I used to use them a lot. This is kind of what I have, right? It's black ink. But this is a nice bottle just to use to really mold the winglets. Right, I do want to make sure that this is aligned properly. Actually, I'm not sure this is a great idea anymore. Maybe this isn't the best idea. Is the curvature enough? Alright, let's try something else. Let's try this glue bottle. This is smaller, easier to manipulate. So let's just zoom in a little bit. So we want to make the curved winglets, but how do we do that in a reliable way? Because if they're not great, if they're not symmetric, then it's going to cause some problems later on. Right, so we need it to be parallel with the axis of the aircraft. So this is approximately where the thing begins. Right, so this point to somewhere on this edge, right? Make it perpendicular. Yeah, that's about right. So I'm not gonna actually draw a line because this is on the actual plane itself, and I don't want to mark it. But if we place this is completely experimental, by the way. I have no idea if this is gonna work. But if we place the glue bottle here and kind of line the contact points with where this thing is, maybe we could start to bend it into place. Not sure. Might have to just freehand this, to be honest. Might have to start a little back. Alright, you know what? This is not working. I can't use it as a mold because it's not reinforced enough on the inside, right? So the paper clip only goes out to about here. So we can't really bend the tip. Can maybe use a ruler. It's kind of like the method that we use to actually bend components. This is, I'm not gonna lie, this is actually kind of hard. I didn't think it would take this long. So I'm just taking a transparent ruler. I'm just trying to figure out how do I do this reliably. I'll pinch it in place. This is so sketchy. This is like literally, I don't know like if this is gonna work at all. let's make it like that, because that edge is better. I think we did it. Now, how much do we want it to go down by? I feel like it should be a little more. Wow, I'm really descriptive right now. I'm so sorry. All right, I'm using a flatter ruler to get a more reliable fold. But this is looking okay so far, because, you know, paperclip, it's made out of metal, so it doesn't want to fold very sharply. So that actually works to our benefit right now. I guess we marked out the parallel fold here. This is very questionable. Oh my god. I don't know if this is a success, but damn, I don't know if you can see that. That's pretty sharp bend. Maybe it's just gonna be sharp bend. Not sure. Wanted it to be kind of a smooth form, but we are trying some new manufacturing techniques, right? So maybe it'll be sharp for this version. Not sure. Zoom this out a little bit. You can see that that's a downwards winglet. Maybe I should do a little bit more. I'm interested to see how this behaves. Oh, well, might have been better to do it this way, actually. Well, today I learned. I learned through experimenting. The only downside about this is you can really see the imprint of the internals. You can see the paperclip kind of bend down right here. Right, it's a little bit more obvious, and then the spar, which is a popsicle stick, kind of see the imprints now. But those are minor cosmetic things. I think this is a nice winglet. It's actually, I don't think I've done anything like this before, so this is pretty nice. I like it. Passes the wingtip test. Right, it's strong. I'm just curious to see how this behaves in the air. What does it actually do to the behavior of flight? That's going to be interesting. We'll have to cut the trailing edge to get some flaps going. So I feel like we might need some extra lift. And also just the wings are super thin, so it's better to have some downwash with the flaps. But yeah, anyway, let's do the other side then. So I like the wing before it got folded. I mean, I still do. I like the winglets because that's what we intended to really do with this design. But I also just like how slender and, you know, it just ends really nicely. So even if we don't end up with a great result, we actually achieved a great result before we came to the final form of whatever we make. Let's do a right angle to the center line here. Just gonna eyeball it. And then try and verify. And come in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. I just kind of fold by lining up the 2 points that we marked on one edge, and use the revised method where we don't pinch both sides and then try and fold. Just kind of fold it over using this. This is actually kind of hard. Let me just use the table. That's easier. Why didn't I think of that before? It's gonna be kind of imprecise.
Sorry if you guys can't see, this is kind of hard. This would be a lot easier with a vise.
Alright, so now we have a little bit of winglet action going on there. Need to increase the angle to match to the other side. That really pinched the bottom side. It's not great anymore, but hey, it's experimental. You're not always gonna get great results, right? Sometimes you get these kinds of things, right? It's not perfect. And in real life, I feel like this is not how they make winglets anyway. They make like a separate piece that they kind of just mount onto the end of the wing, and you know, it's carefully designed, and we're just trying to create something similar, but it is turning out to be a little more difficult than anticipated, and the results aren't as nice, and that's just how things are sometimes. For the most part, I feel like it still does look pretty nice. Alright, so the nice thing about using paperclip for this, as opposed to just folding it down, is that it is extremely rigid. These winglets are downwards canted, and they are very stiff. They don't like to bend too much, which is nice for aero purposes when it's flying in the air. So now I'm just doing a check to make sure that they're symmetric, right? I feel like this side might have a little too much, not sure if we flipped it upside down. Nah, it's about the same. We'll see when it flies. If it doesn't fly well, that means we either tune the control surfaces wrong or the winglets are wrong. And usually the winglets being wrong will affect it more because they're further out, so a slight off angle might yield a bigger effect. But it's looking okay. It's not great, but I'm interested to see how it behaves in the air. Oh, another nice thing about the, let me just move this to the side real quick. Another nice thing about the winglets is the plane doesn't like to wobble too much, right? Because if it, you know, it can wobble a lot like this, but if you're right side up, now it's like stable. So it's kind of like landing gear in that sense, unintentionally. It's kind of roll stable. But anyways, that's that. Final step to this build is to attach the A-tail. Now this is not a trivial step, right? This seems like it should be an easy step, but if you do it wrong, your plane is gonna be wonky in terms of flight characteristics. So you want to be really careful with how you do this. It has to be perfectly symmetric. It cannot be off. If it's off, you will find out in the flight. If it's unbalanced, you will find out when it flies. So you really want to be as careful as you can with the mounting of this. So to do that, I'm gonna move my camera a little bit here. So I do want to sit down when I do this, so, and I want you guys to be able to hear me, so we'll see how this goes. I feel like you should be able to hear me. Anyway, so now comes the question of how do we mount this thing in a nice, in a precise, accurate manner, right? So definitely not eyeballing. I feel like, you know, that would be not great, not ideal. So where do we want to mount it? That's another question that we have to really wonder about. Because I feel like we don't want it to be too close, right? Because then that negates the effect of a tail, right? If we make it so long like this, it looks weird, okay? But at least you'll get nice aerodynamics, because it's not close coupled with the fuselage and wing. So it's really hard to decide. Don't really know exactly what I'm gonna do. In the drawing, it looks like the A-tail is kind of aligned with that ending piece right there. So what if we just did it like that? It just like took this and then mounted it like that, right? That would be interesting, right? Kind of like masking the tail a little bit with the A-tail section. How far apart do we want it to be? That's another good question. So I feel like for that, I'm just gonna take a shortcut and say, hey, use the width of a ruler, right? Or something like that. Because that'll define like a very nice edge. This is hard. I don't know how to do this. Or we could just eyeball it, attach it, and then tune it later. Worry about the problems later. That seems like a bad policy. Should not do that. Just fixing the tail a little bit right now. Tape is coming off a little bit. I don't know. I don't know how to do this. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. But yeah, it's gonna be mounted on the bottom, right? Twin boom. And then I guess the question is, how do we want to mount this? Enough to cover. So I'm looking at the side profile right now. It looks like it has a very long stinger, like on some of the Sukhoi fighter jets. So if we wanted to cover that, right, we don't want to see that stinger, then we have to move it back a certain amount. Well, this is tough. This is tough. I don't know how to do this. I am thinking about it. Let's see, what's the measurement here? Right, so if we use imperial units, how many centimeter, or how many inches? It's about 2 inches. Okay, so let's just do 2 inches off the center line. Right, that's a nice point to mount it. So now we just have to like determine, we have to mark like a parallel line to the middle axis 2 inches away. This is gonna be kind of hard to do on a 3D model. On a 2D shape, it's really easy to do that. This is gonna be tough. Shoot. Let's see. We could just eyeball it. Is that it? Alright, this is not great. I don't have a nice imperial units ruler. This one has a lot of margin on the end, so it's really hard to measure with because there's an offset. But it looks like it's about 1/4 of an inch. So if we go to 1 3/4, that'll be 2 inches. Okay, maybe we don't want 2 inches. That might be a bit much. Not sure actually. Let's test that out. So go to 1 1/4. That's about right there. Actually, that's decent. That's decent. All right, let's stick with that. It looks a little bit too much outboard, and it might be so, but it looks right to my eye, so I'm gonna go for it. This margin right here on the end of the ruler is 1/4 of an inch because it's just the way it is. So using that knowledge, if we want to get to 2 inches with a 1/4 inch offset, then we need to go 1.75, which is 1 3/4 of an inch, which is going to be approximately right about here. And you gotta note, this is not off the center line, right? This is off the handle, which has the thickness, right? This handle has a thickness right here, so it's not exactly that, but we're saying that it's close enough, right? And it's really hard to really actually get a center line. It's really hard to do because the center line is, well, in the center, so it's gonna be kind of hard to measure from the center if you have a 3D object, right? So if you actually did this on a 2D plan form, this would be a lot easier. But since we're mounting everything last, this is kind of what we get. Built the tail first, tail assembly, and then now we're just getting to assemble it. Now we're just checking for parallel lines. We want this mounting to be parallel to the axis, because otherwise your tail is going to be at an angle, right? The boom is going to extend out. It's going to be at an angle. And you're not going to have a good time because it's going to cause you tons of control problems. All right, so we drew that line. That's the line we're going to mount the boom to on one side. Now we need to do the same thing for the other side. And if we remember that measurement, it's going to be 1.75 inches. It's going to be kind of hard, again, because it's a 3D surface. 3D features everywhere, right? Just mark the trailing edge here, and then it's the handle. Oh shit! This this is hard. All right. So we have to go from the other end of the ruler because that's just how life is sometimes. So 12 minus 1.75. It's going to give us 11 minus 7.5. So that's 10.25. Right. So 10.25 is right about here. Shoot. All right. And then I'm going to try and make sure that's parallel. If it's not, then damn it, we just measured something wrong. It looks parallel to me. Nah, it's not parallel. Fuck. Anyway. Alright, so now switch to the metric side. 4.4 centimeters approximately. Go to this side, 4.4. That's actually about the right location. Huh. Very curious. Move this one out just a tad. Now let's draw a line connecting the two. Wait. This is very sketchy. Very sketchy. Do not know if this will work. Right? Because if the plane flies weirdly, then we know. I don't know what's happening. Let's dry mount it along the lines, and then see how we're doing on parallelness. I don't think it's parallel. It's pointing in a little bit. Wait, no, it's... What? No, it's not. Is it? I am not sure anymore. Dang it. Alright, let's measure from the leading edge. 3 centimeters, perfectly. Wow. Alright. Oh, don't tell me the wings aren't symmetric. That would suck. That would really suck. This is about 3. It's about 7. It's about 7. Huh. Alright, so the wings are slightly different lengths. Oh, God, this pisses me off. Alright, should have done this correctly, but... Alright, so... It's about right. I'll say that much. This is a little over 3. So... So if we make it 3, I think that'll fix the problem. I mean, the wings turn out to be asymmetric. Can you believe it? I tried so hard to make everything symmetric, and it's still asymmetric. I feel like the tolerances in the build just kind of add up to this point. You know, it's not like, yeah, it's just kind of hard to determine, you know, these stack-ups of the tolerances. So 3.5 centimeters from the trailing edge. Let's see what it is currently. It is at 4, so we are 0.5 centimeter outboard. So just by eyeballing, because I was really trained with eyeballing, I was able to tell that it was a little bit off. I had to mark it at the 3.5 centimeter mark. That's assuming the fairing is perfectly in place. Damn. Alright, So I'm just gonna erase this lightly. Right. And just look at this. Right, connect the dots. And let's finish it out. Like if it points like this, then the plane is gonna pitch down. If it points like this, the plane is gonna pitch up. So we'll have to tune that out later. But we're gonna try mounting this now. Whew, boy, this is gonna be tough. Let's see. We mount the center line of the boom right to that point. Alright, the best I can do is a loose fit on one side. So we don't have enough hands to simultaneously tape everything. That would be awesome if I were an octopus and I could just tape everything all at once. But I am not an octopus. So we have to tape on one side first. Just to get a fix on everything, and then try taping the other side and adjusting accordingly. Right, so that looks about right. Don't know how backwards we should go, right? That's the other question that we didn't answer. Enough to cover the tail? No, that's too much, right? Tail, like, stinger thing. I feel like the stinger is a nice thing, though. It might not necessarily be a bad thing, because if the plane lands tail first, then you're not striking the boom, right? You're just striking the fuselage itself, because it has such a long stinger. So I think, you know what? That seems about right. Right. So we're just gonna like drop this line down. So like this point right here is gonna be right on top of this point. That's how we're gonna determine how far back to go. And yeah, that looks about right there. Damn. All right. Yeah. This is really careful stuff right here. You gotta be really careful. Just visually inspecting every moment along the way. Right. So you have a preliminary piece down. We're not going to tape it dead quite yet because we don't know if it's in place. So we're going to dry tape the other side. I don't know if that makes any sense. Dry tape, temporarily tape. Alright, we taped it in place. Now we just have to adjust everything. I feel like this is pointing a little out. So if we take that, adjust this tail a little bit. It's just it's kind of an art at this point, because these parts aren't precise, right? There's no place to bolt it in, right, to secure it. So you kind of just have to go with feel at this point. I'm just checking for symmetry. It doesn't look symmetric. That's unfortunate. I have to line the booms manually. Alright, I'm gonna secure one side. Now that it's kind of parallel on the other side. I folded it too hard. Tape ripped. Like this side needs to go back a little bit. Nope, too far back. It's not symmetric. Yeah, that's the thing with twin booms. It's very finicky. Right, it's really hard to get the A-tail to look nice, to look right. God. Piece. Damn it. Tape just taped to itself. Don't know how to take this apart. I have to cut it. Apply a new piece of tape. Try again. Yeah, it's very finicky. It's not the best thing, but that's what you get when you want to do a twin boom. Shit. Anyway, I'll just read the comments real quick. Just make sure that nobody has any questions or anything. Looks really good. Thanks, man. We are closing in on 2 hours. We are almost there. We are so close. It's just this last step of mounting is just really difficult. Damn. Alright. Let's try this again. The second time's the charm. Alright, now I just want to make sure it's symmetric. Right, looking at it, adjusting it. Temporary tag in place. I'm just checking the symmetry still. It's a very manually intensive process. But I think it's good. Alright, now I'm just going to secure it a little bit better. For this, I'm going to test out a new idea. Just tape on one side. Connect it down to the other. It's like a more secure way to do it. Alright, that's about it. Now we just need to secure the other side. Just want to make sure it's very nice, and because this is a critical part, right? So if this thing fails, if this tape connection fails, then you lose your entire aft empennage of the aircraft. You lose the A-tail, you lose control, you're gonna crash. So we don't want it to be able to separate really easily. That's also why I want to create a fairing structure around each of these. I'm probably going to trim this and build a fairing, and that's just to make sure it's really solid and in place, and it's protected, right? Because right now it's the twin booms are not protected from, you know, external forces acting on it. Right, so if it crashes into a tree branch or something, this can rip off really easily. So if we build a fairing over it that protects that, the fairing might get ripped off in the case of a collision, but the twin boom will be fine. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. It looks all right to me. Might be a little weird because it's a novel configuration, but for the most part, I feel like this project is a success. We'll have to see if it actually flies. It might not even fly, but if that's the case, well, we tried it, we gave it our best, and it looks cool. So it's not a completely lose-lose situation. Get a cool airplane out of it, even though it doesn't fly. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I just saying in case it fails. Right. So that's that. I'm gonna trim this front portion off here. It's a difficult little bit to deal with. Right, now I'm going to trim the boom. yet. I'm going to trim the boom now. This is a major step here. A lot had to happen to get to this point. So just a quick trim. Like that. Right. And then build a fairing around this. We're a little over 2 hours, but I feel like this project is so close to completion, I might as well spend some extra time today to finish it off. But this is Rapid Prototype 004. It's coming along pretty well, I think. So yeah, it's coming together. All right, let's make the fairings, shall we? Starting with printer paper, of course. I want to use a template. Don't want to directly work out of the cardstock. A long time ago, when I made planes directly out of printer paper, I did actually just use parts directly drawn out. But now with the better processes, I'm just going to transfer the template, or with the better materials, I need to transfer the template onto the actual cardstock, right? So I don't know how this is gonna work. This is the first time I've ever built something that kind of wraps around, right? This needs to be very smooth to the bottom, right? So it needs to integrate this really tightly in. That is going to be interesting. I wonder if I can use a straw. Let me just check. Yeah, I have 2 Dunkin' Donuts straws right here. If I integrated the structure, right? So I cut it open and then taped it flat around it. Alright, I do think I need a little bit more tape here just to secure the open edges of the tape used to secure the pylon. Now make sure it's secure. I'm going to do it to the other side as well. That's going to be there. Alright, and then the other side. I'm also considering not making the fairing. The reason I say that is we want to keep this design pretty simple, but I'm debating still because I do want to try and figure out a way to model that. It's gonna be interesting though, I think, either way. if I don't add the pylon, it's going to be fairly streamlined. If I do, I might discover some new methods and techniques. Or maybe we can do it as a upgrade later on. You know, like after a couple flights we discover we actually need that fairing. Then we can add it. And if it doesn't need it, then we don't add it. This is coming together. I think it looks all right. This is not bad. I was just wondering if this needs a little more protection. All right, let's see, we could prototype this. Let's zoom in a little closer. So let's see, if we just cut a triangular piece. No, it can't be triangular. Yeah, how do we solve this problem? I can make a cone out of this straw. How are we gonna integrate it? All right, you know what? Let's just play around, right? So this is cut one side. I can go over. Nah, that might be a little too complex. So, I don't know. Let's cut up a little piece of paper and try an experiment. Let's see what we can come up with. Alright, so get rid of that little edge there. So no matter what, the front is still going to be there. That's very interesting. We wrap this around, right? Try and make it a smooth surface. but then how do you close that? It's like a little cone shape. Alright, this is gonna be hard to really do. Do I just straight up like attach something that like wrapped around this longitudinally? Alright, so like a section that has a slanted edge here, and it just kind of like folds over like that. And then even if we do that, then how are we gonna finish it, right? Not sure. I'm not sure about this entire thing. Yeah, so let's see what can we do, right? So let's trim out this edge right here, because I have a feeling that's gonna be long. All right. So what I mean is like a piece like this that fits around one of these pylons, right, like that, kind of, but like a little more nicely, right? If we can do that, package this nicely, we can like make it pretty slender and nice, right? Pinch this down and then I'm not sure this will work actually. And then use like a secondary piece to connect it across this way. But honestly, that just might be too much. I don't know. I might just leave it. If I leave it, I might have to upgrade it later. That's the only thing. Or we could just tape it shut. Keep things simple. Tape it shut. Let's try that. Actually, that does a nice job. It's not bad. It also, so the nice thing about that is that the boom, since it's on like a curved surface, it used to want to point up a little bit, so it's like slanted like this, which might cause some pitch up issues. But now that we tape this part down, it's like kind of forcing this to be more level. So it's like a nice balance. Yeah, I'll just do that. That's the easiest way to solve this problem. Right, because we don't want to like overcomplicate things. I have a tendency to do that. I do realize. I do concede. But it's like, if you don't have to have it be so complicated, then, and it does the same job, then it's like, you know, why bother? Unless it produces a significantly better result, then it's worth it. Sometimes you gotta know when to quit, when to keep going. This is about nice, right? This is nicely integrated. Boom. Now we can really secure the apt section here. secure the inboard of that side, outboard of this side. And I'm also running really low on tape, so good thing we're finishing up now. Sorry that took such a long time. So that's kind of like the design process, is you kind of have to take some time to think about this, think about these things, right? Make sure what you're doing makes sense, right? In this case, it would be too much effort to develop and design a separate fairing. So rather than do that, we could just use the tape itself as the fairing. Right. So now I'm just creating like a final tape reinforcement layer. It's hard to tell. It's probably like 4 or 5 layers already, or maybe that's too much. Maybe it's like 3 or 4 layers of tape. This is interesting. Do a final layer on this side. Because this is such an important connection point, I want to make sure that it's very secure. That's why I'm spending the extra time and tape, really, to get this right. If it were any other part, I wouldn't spend this much time on it. But since it's such an important part, I need to make sure that it doesn't fail. Alright, I think that's pretty secure. Now we just have to replicate it on the opposite side. Reinforce it again. Like so. And then reinforce this side. Clean up that edge. Alright, so, sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. Right. This is basically the end of this rapid prototype series of builds. It took about 5 live streams to get to this point, but much of that length can be attributed to the fact that I was trying to teach you guys some techniques and things like that. So I'm gonna keep this piece right here because that is still good paper. I am going to clean up now, but that was a nice project. I feel like got a lot done, saw a lot of new techniques come to play. Right, so we designed it from a sketch, right, from a 3-view sketch. Let me just get all of these scraps out of the way real quick. Right, we went from a simple sketch sketch all the way to a final design. It looks a little bit off. It's not exact. It's not to spec. But it's a rapid prototype, and I think we're about done with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this stream. We'll start a new project next time. I think I mentioned in one of my other streams that we're gonna start on an X47B. I like made so many other auxiliary videos about that, right? I made a CAD model. That was like years ago. That was approximately like 4 years ago at this point. But I never actually made a video, like a proper design video or flight video for the X47. So I might end up making one of those. Those things fly really nice too. So be on the lookout for that in the next stream. But yeah, this is pretty much it for Rapid Prototype 004. I'll be making a video for this soon, a design video and a flight test video. So be on the lookout for that too. Yeah, otherwise this has been real fun, doing this on live stream. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the stream. Like I said, I am, so like my job has been furloughed, so that means that I now have Fridays off. I actually have today off. So I could have like started this stream really early, but I wanted to have enough energy to produce good work and not just have a longer stream. So anyway, because I've been furloughed, that means I have Fridays off. That means every 2 weeks, since I go back to visit my family and everything, that means that I can't be doing the stream on Fridays, every other Friday, until about August, end of August. So next week it'll likely be on a Thursday. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll get started on the project for the X47B, which is a really good design and it flies really well. So I'm excited for that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.